everybody, my name's Alec Steele. This is episode 8 of the Alec Steele Show. If you're watching on Facebook or YouTube, you might have seen we had a little technical hiccup. That is solved. We're back, and hopefully without any more problems. So, on the schedule for tonight, as you might well have heard me say just a little while ago, is we're going to be making a ring, and ideally I would have used copper or silver. Couldn't find my copper, forgot to buy silver. Unprepared, lack of preparedness, what can I say? However, I've got the next best thing. That is titanium. And the name of the game today is to count how many times I call this steel instead of titanium. Titanium is a fun metal to forge. We're going to find that it's very hard, but it's very soft when it's hot. Hang on a second, I phrased that wrong. It's very soft when it's hot, but when it's hot, it's so incandescent that you can't quite see what you're doing. And so there's this fun little kind of paradox that we need it really hot to be able to forge it, but we need it cool to be able to see what we're doing. That's the trouble. So that's what we got to fight when we're forging titanium. But I assure you, it's going to be a lot of fun. So I'm going to be here at my 51 kilogram Brooks anvil, and I'm excited to hear all your questions, of course. This is the beauty for doing it live, is that I want to have that interaction between you all and myself. Please comment your questions. Let us know what you're thinking. Make your suggestions for next week. And yeah, just have a great time, guys. This is going to be a lot of fun. The steel is almost hot. I'm going to go ahead and set us up on the page. Hello, Matt, Dustin, Jeremy, and Michael. It is awesome to see you guys. Thank you very much for being here. Brill. So, I think I'm probably going to make a leaf on this titanium ring. So I'm going to forge a taper on the end of it. Come to the radius edge of my anvil. I'm actually going to brush that stuff off of there. It's sitting in the fire a little while longer than it should have there while we are fixing the stream. Forge a nice little steep taper, nice and obtuse. And of course, you'll see quite what I'm talking about. You see there's that little bow in there, piece of steel. You'd hit that bow and it would straighten. It's so incredibly strong, it's almost impossible to straighten a small little bow like that. Fantastic material. It's a whole lot of fun to work with this material. One of the problems with working with the material I've found in my limited experience working with titanium, admittedly, very limited experience working with titanium, is that it'll often develop surface cracks. So the battle that I have is trying to work out how I can best mitigate against this and best create a forging that still has adequate strength to be able to be used on one's finger. If this all fails, that's okay. I've got a piece of steel here which will make a wonderful ring too. But I'm hopefully not going to let it fail. Okay. So I'm going to take about a cube of material, and I'm going to work here over the far edge of the anvil and just divide it up. This steel is about 8 millimeters in diameter, so that's about 5/16 of an inch or so. And I really don't need to take too much to have plenty of enough material. Wow. The oxides just flew right in my lip. Ow. I don't need to take too much to have plenty of material. Hello, Raymond. Hello, Nick. Great to see you guys. Look at that. Look at the oxides. Go ahead and... These oxides are brown, almost. That's very, very interesting to see. Certainly very different to steel. Brilliant. Fantastic. Let's take another heat. And back in the fire. This is the thing about titanium, that silver certainly has its advantages over, as does gold and as does copper. Sadly, we're not going to be forging any gold on the show for probably quite a few years. Financial reasons. It's like $600 worth of gold. It'd be a bad thing to melt in the forge. It would have an expensive forge lining. But your copper, your gold, your silver, it'll forge for much longer. Titanium, that stuff, it just cools down so damn fast. You're going to keep going back and forth from the fire. What's going on Facebook? How are you all doing? Ah! Matt Benka was asking me a little while ago about how I hold a hammer and how I swing my hammer. You know, I like to try and avoid holding the hammer. If you go ahead and hit on the close angle real quick. I like to avoid holding a hammer so that the web between my thumb and index finger is all the way in the handle. I find that I have a lot less control here, a little less dexterity, and the way that I like to think about holding the hammer, rather than being more like this, I kind of rotate my hand over slightly, ever so slightly, which means that there is a gap where I can stick my index finger between the hammer shaft and the web of my thumb and forefinger. And this means that if you then go ahead and go wide again, Sam, this means that when I swing my hammer, it's very much in the fingertips. It's funny to watch a slow motion video of myself working, because I'll be coming down with that handle, you know, almost vertical for a great deal of the travel of the hammer. And it's only at the last minute that I then whip it and generate a little extra velocity by, you know, whipping it together in my fingertips. The same way a percussionist might whip his drumsticks in his fingertips between his two fingers. And in the fingertips, you know, it's held very loosely. There's very loose grip when gripping the hammer, not to over grip and send shocks up your arm and damage it that way. Having a loose grip, and ultimately, as wishy-washy as it seems, but you should do what's most comfortable to you. If you don't have hands that are precisely the same as mine, you might find that you get better results doing it the other way. However, in the fingertips, I think the advantages of being able to very easily tilt and twist the hammer all the way through wherever you're going to need to tilt and twist it without needing to change your grip or bend at the wrist where you don't have that range of motion. I like that. I really like holding it in the fingertips, and that's what I'd recommend. Regarding the hammer swing, just stay relaxed. You know, it's the best thing I can do. The best thing I can tell you, stay relaxed. Find the way that you feel most relaxed. I like to approach the anvil this way, and you know, I have my reasons for doing so, and that's how I like to kind of teach students how to do it. But the key is staying relaxed, because if you're in this game, you know, it's hard work. You want to make it as easy for yourself as possible. So again, we're going to try and see whether I can avoid this cracking. When we zoom in, you might well even see the tiny, tiny little microfractures in the surface as we forge the titanium. Very interesting. Hello, Finn. Great to see you. Finnin. Matt is asking whether I actively try and make the handle be vertical like that. It's not something I actively do. That's just how my swing has kind of evolved. But you know, I tend to come down like this. I think it's just a process of trying to get as much whip into that hammer as possible, and you know, make it accelerate as fast as possible without overstraining my body. You know, it's one thing. You know, letting your fingertips just snap and using that leverage to gain that extra velocity. It's another thing to then be gripping it and try and gain velocity with your arm. And I would tend to think that it's going to require a little less effort to develop that velocity by pivoting it between your fingers than using the entire energy of your arm with this gripped in your fist to do it. That's my thinking. Certainly somebody with some fantastic equipment could likely measure these things and find out, you know, the most efficient way to swing a hammer. Sadly, I don't know how soon that'll happen. The one that I'm using now is a 2.5 pounder, which is perfectly adequate for this kind of small work. Little 2.5 pound rounding hammer I made with Ed Brazil, Brian Brazil's brother, several years ago. So it's a lovely, lovely hammer, and that was in fact, it's very funny, a wonderful story in Louisiana. It was, you know, we put it in an auction to kind of raise some funds for the International Young Smiths, and you know, the gentleman bought it in the auction, then he gave it to me. I mean, it's like, that was a wonderful, wonderful moment, because this was a beautiful hammer. At the time, this was one of the nicest hammers I'd made, and you know, he gave the hammer and paid the money for the hammer too. I mean, what a wonderful thing. I felt very pleased to have my own hammer gifted back to me. Obviously very slow going with the titanium, especially as we get to these small cross sections, as it certainly does want to cool down very fast. I'm just going to readjust my microphone cable real quick here. Sorry guys. Pull some funny faces. Awesome, Nick, I'm thrilled to hear that your 2-year-old's already picking up hammers. That's great. How you doing? You enjoying yourself? Are you enjoying the life of a broadcasting professional somewhat? We don't have the usual Sam behind the camera today. We have new Sam. New Sam is stepping in for original Sam, which is great. He's been helping me out this week. We've been making a big batch of hammers. Lots of hammers. It's been exhausting work, hence why I'm going to try and keep today's episode to a somewhat shorter length, as we've had a very long day already, and it's like 11 o'clock now at night. It's 25 to 11 at night. Had a very long day. It's going to be another long day tomorrow. It's always a long day, and I want to get some sleep at some point. I don't think Sam's quite as used to the long days as I am, and I think he's starting to show signs of that. You seem pretty tired, Sam.
I'm just sleeping, eating some muscle. Someone's asking for titanium.
Sorry?
Someone's asking for titanium.
Can you forge weld titanium? I don't know. I believe that somebody with a lot more experience with titanium, if I'm not mistaken, is Randy McDaniel. I believe he has much, much more experience with titanium than I certainly do. Regarding forge welding titanium, he'd be the man to ask. Now, am I not mistaken in thinking that people make Damascus? Is that what they call it? Titanium Damascus? So I presume it must be forge weldable if they're able to do that, unless they do it in some other way. Hey Sam, great to see you. Another Sam, sorry. Now there are like so many Sams. What's going on YouTube? How's everybody doing on YouTube? I'm sorry guys, I forgot my other computer today, so I don't have the YouTube comment section running up yet. Sorry? No, not really. I don't know. It depends. Like if it's dangerous, yeah. If it's a dangerous operation, I won't let anybody else do it. If it's like a really critical operation, I won't let anybody else do it. You know? But in terms of like my hand tools, anybody can use any of my hand tools. It's not really a big deal if they break them. Very few of my tools am I sentimental about. So, you know, most of my tools I just make them, you know. I make them anyway, so it's not a big problem if they break, so anybody can use them. You know, my main forging hammer is used by all of my students, and I don't mind if they were to, you know, obviously, and like here's the thing, is as I make hammers for people I want to use and abuse my own tools to see how they're holding up, because they're the tools that, I ship around the world for people. And so I do want people to beat the crap out of them when they're here at my workshop, where I can see what's happening to them, see what the effects are, see, okay, do I need to pick another alloy? Do I need to change a heat treating process? Do I need to fix this or that? Like, that's a great thing about having students here and having them use my own tools, is I can let them abuse them and see, okay, here's what I need to do. I need to make sure that, X, Y, Z is met. Otherwise, it's going to be an inferior tool. And of course, my relaxedness when it comes to letting people use my tools might also be in part due to the fact that the anvils that I have my students work at, like the anvil that I work on the most, two of the anvils that I work on the most are actually both mild steel, because most of what I do is teaching classes. So I have a mild steel striking anvil. I have no qualms about that being hit with a sledge at a full blow, taking a big old dent out of the side. It doesn't worry me, it's mild steel, I don't care. The anvil that I work at doing most of my hand forging is a mild steel die anvil, so I don't mind. If they miss hit and put a dent in it, it's not a big deal. I can hammer the dent back into itself, I can weld it and grind it out, or I can just grind it back smooth. I don't mind. And it's not the worry that I have with having a student on a hard anvil mishitting regularly isn't so much that we're denting the edge of the hard anvil, it's more so much that, like, stuff will break. If you hit a hard object with a hard object, eventually one of them will give, and I don't like the idea of having a piece of shrapnel go into my student's leg or somebody else's leg or my leg. That doesn't sound like a particularly peachy day to me, and I'd rather keep things a little bit more jovial than having to deal with, amputated legs and stuff. Hey, Tucker Singer, I'm making a titanium ring, which is very exciting as titanium is a very interesting material to forge. Daniel Steele, you have a great last name. Good on you. Money clip, it's a great suggestion. I love it, love it. Money clips are very fun to make also. Now, Elijah asks what I think would be a good weight of hammer for a beginning smith. Well, when people come and take a class here, certainly they're given the option, always. A private class it's all about the student, all about what the student chooses to do. However, my recommendation, provided they're able to strike hard enough, and if they're intending to be forging with the knowledge that they've learned, and they're not necessarily a farrier or not into jewelry, my recommendation is to start with a 3.5 pound rounding hammer. That is a great all-round weight. If I was to be not making tools all the time, I would be swinging a 3.5 pound hammer the most. Because I'm making tools all the time, I'd probably swing the most blows with my 7 pound hand hammer because I'm driving drifts and trying to get them done very fast. The 3.5 pound, however, it's great for everything. This could be done perfectly easily, even in gold with a 3.5 pound hammer. We just lift it up a little bit less. And we could go all the way up to about 5/8 of an inch round. You could make yourself all of the tongs you wanted with a 3.5 pound hammer. If you're wanting to move enough material to make all the tongs you want and be able to make jewelry like this, 3.5 pound hammer is great for all sizes of people. All sizes of people will do fine on a 3.5 pound hammer, over the age of whatever, 13 or something. Depends, there are a lot of differences. Men and women. However, if you're wanting to go above, say, 5/8 round, I'd start recommending getting into a larger weight of hammer. Start getting into the 4.5 pound hammer, certainly, if you're going to want to work between 5/8 and an inch. Above an inch, you shouldn't be working it with a hand hammer. You should get yourself a striker, you should get yourself a power hammer, ideally, these are the things you do. But if you're going to work above an inch, you're going to want a heavier hammer than 4.5 pounds even. You see how it's cooled almost to the point of not being able to forge it by the time I get to the anvil. This is the trouble. We have such limited forging time with the titanium that by the time we get to the anvil, we're already cold. So, hello, Charles Pickett. I'm making a titanium ring. Thank you so much for being here. Did you see that? It broke. Okay. Sorry? Yeah, exactly. Hey, I said it from the beginning. I warned you guys. I presume there are more forgeable grades of titanium than others. I don't know what this is, but we have had a little break right there. So, looks like we're gonna have to abandon the titanium. I'm so sorry, guys. Sorry? Well, having said that, I could still... I can't see it. My eyesight's not good enough. Oh, wait. No, I just have a load of sawdust in my glasses. Here we go. You know, I could probably still make a ring out of it. It just wouldn't be the design that I'd want. While the other piece is in the fire, I'll see if I can play around with it a little more. Do a little more whack whack, a little less yak yak on this bad boy. Sorry about that, guys. I know you're all excited. Sebastian Gordon Shine, where can you get one of my stickers for your truck? Like, I would love... What I think I'm gonna... The trouble is I'm so damn busy that going to the post office is always a nightmare. And it takes, you know, it takes a good chunk of time out of your day to put something in a packet and go to the post office and ship it. So what I'm thinking I'm probably gonna try and do is, there are services online where you can upload a design to their site, they take a fee, they print it, they ship it out, they organize that, you know, I can then take a small cut on that, and that means that I then don't have to be involved in the printing, in the shipping and all of that. It makes it pretty difficult for me to, you know, offer stickers for sale. It's something I really wanted to do, but the time that's involved in going to the post office for something, you know, that I could sell for like, what, $5 for a sticker, and that'd be like an expensive as hell sticker, you know, that's not worth me. It's just not worth the time going to the post office, sadly. Now, what I will do is, hey, you know, occasionally, you know, somebody orders something, yeah, you know, I might throw in a sticker, you know, be like, hey, thanks for ordering, here's a sticker, and just throw in a sticker. Yeah, they're the kind of things that I want to do, because that, you know, that's easy. I just have to throw a sticker in the box as opposed to go to the post office. Man, I'm really making sure to go the longest-winded ways of giving answers. Basically, no, I'm not going to put stickers up for sale on the website currently. Oh, look at that. Did you see? Wow. That is fascinating. It's just continuously fracturing into smaller and smaller pieces. How interesting. Look at that. Wow. That's incredible. No, I love working with new materials and finding out stuff like this. I'm gonna have to play with that some more and see how it goes. That's interesting. I know that this titanium was used in a prosthetics factory in France. A student of mine, about a year and a half ago, is a machinist there, and they allow him to go through the scrap bins and pick up the titanium. So the interesting thing to note is that, like, you know, okay, here's this bar, like that right there is inside somebody's body. They made screws out of it, like it's crazy. Okay, so now that that has completely and utterly failed, we're gonna switch to like the material that I'm a little more familiar with. We're gonna go back to steel. God, what a letdown. I'm so sorry, guys. very sorry, but I didn't hear what you said. The forge means it's difficult to hear.
Someone on YouTube has asked, will you ever do a propane forge tutorial?
Will I ever do a propane forge tutorial? Once I'm happy with the design, yes. I'm not happy with the design yet. So, at some point, yeah. You know, I like the direction that this goes, but there are things that I need to tweak. You know, I use them pretty regularly, and so I need to make sure that I can recommend people the best way of doing things. God, it's great to see you guys. Right, now we'll go back to the material that I'm a little more familiar with. My favorite noises in the world. Elijah Thomas asks, what is the easiest ways of hammer to make? The easiest way to hammer to make is probably going to be more on the lighter end. However, the graph of easiness, the diagram of easiness, it kind of changes a little bit, because as you get very small, it becomes very difficult and finicky. The easiest hammer to make is probably like a 1.5 pound hammer or a 1 3/4 pound hammer. That's pretty simple to make, and you can make that with a striker, and it's great exercise for practicing all the techniques, and the steel costs nothing. It's like the steel for a 1 3/4 pound billet is very insignificant, and so it's a great one to practice on. And Farry is like the 1 3/4 pound weight too. Scott Phillips, I love your optimism. Here is what Scott Phillips said: "You did not fail. You succeeded at finding out a method of what not to do." Like it. That's just, that's about the motto of my everyday here at the workshop, eh? So I'm just tilting that round, dive the hammer back towards myself. Make sure I get a reverse taper coming in here. Ooh, yes, there we go. It feels good to be working steel again, I tell you that. Feels like I'm home. So when you're forging these two-sided tapers and you get into this very small material at this stage, hey, you know what would be really interesting? Do you know where my digital calipers are? Digital calipers?
Yes.
I believe, they're just there on that box. This is going to be very interesting. We're going to measure the diameter of this once I'm done forging with this, with these cheapo sneepo digital calipers. And basically what I was saying is, when we're forging this very small material, very, very easy to twist it. And when we're working these opposing two-sided tapers that you can find out more about in my YouTube video about two-sided tapers, we want to make sure that they're all opposing, so everything's straight, and we don't forge it the wrong way. Oh, almost burnt the steel. That propane forge is hot. So now, get back to forging it how I want. Love it. God, steel, so much better, so much easier. Matt, I'm turning the full 90 degrees after every single blow, not 45. Full 90 degrees every blow. Back and forth at this point, since we're wanting to offset that shoulder. Now I'm going to go up onto the diagonals. Forge an octagon. So the techniques to make this ring are techniques that I picked up from Brazil, the two-sided taper. And it's a wonderfully effective way of making a ring in a very timely manner when you're going at it and you're in practice and you're not doing this in front of an audience. So, about 1.56 millimeters. Pretty thin stuff to forge. In inches, that is 70 thousandths of an inch that we're forging. On a scale on the leaf end, we're now going to move to forging the leaf. Since I'm not working the titanium, which does require to be very, very hot, I am going to go ahead and turn down the forge a little bit. Interestingly enough, this burner is a large burner. You know, it's meant for running it at the higher pressures. So at the low pressures, if you hear a little gulping sound from this forge with this particular burner, ignore it. We're not going to burn anything down, I hope. It'll sometimes go, you know. Uh-oh, I shouldn't do that. People will make a meme out of it. Oh, Joshua. Joshua has asked a great question. He's asked how to get into the craft of blacksmithing on a budget. Well, it's very simple. I actually think that this is one of the most easy to access hobbies there are, apart from having to get over the hurdle of worrying about fire, worrying about smoke, and worrying about noise. They're the three kind of issues to contend with. Let me go ahead and take this heat. I'm just going to go and wire brush this at this high temperature, get all that crud off of there. Great. While I talk about this, I'm going to set this to the side. I don't want that over-oxidizing, especially as we're getting near to the completion stage. So when you're wanting to get into blacksmithing for the first time, it's pretty simple. All you've got to do is find yourself a block of steel, find yourself some fire bricks, find yourself a piece of steel tube, find yourself a hair blower. Can you believe that? Find yourself a hair dryer. Is it a hair dryer? I'm now confused. It is a hair dryer, the thing that people dry their hair with. Find yourself a hair dryer. You duct tape the hair dryer to the steel tube. It does not have to be fancy. You know, it's #1 duct tape special. Duct tape that to the tube. You dig yourself a trench in the ground, and then you dig yourself a hole. You put a fire brick in the bottom of the hole. You put 2 fire bricks to either side, and you put a half fire brick either side of the steel tube. There, you then blow with the hair dryer, and that air means that you can then take lumpwood charcoal or coal or coke and have extra oxygen into the fire to make a much hotter fire. That setup means that you can have your first forge in the ground, or raise it up and do the same thing in some sort of raised basin, fill it with dirt, then fire bricks, then the blower. It can be raised up, and you have a forge that you can do everything I'm going to do ever on this live show in. Everything I ever do in this live show, everything I ever do in my workshop can be done with 2 fire bricks and then 1 fire brick that's broken in half either side of a steel tube in a hole in the ground. That can all be done that simply, blown with a hairdryer, or 2 hair dryers if you need more air. A hairdryer does a pretty decent amount of air anyway. You can do a lot of work like that, and that forge will cost you, including the hairdryer, less than $15. You can buy a hairdryer for $10, the bricks, you know, they'll cost you $5 total.
House bricks.
Yeah, you can get away with it with house bricks, but they will melt and pop and kind of like, you know, explode a little bit. Just use fire bricks, they're cheap, you can order them on eBay anywhere. And that's the easiest way to get into it. Then find yourself a block of steel and find yourself a hammer. And if you want to learn more about how to get into that, I do have an online course that basically shows you how to gather all of these supplies, all of these materials. And then I go through the entire process of showing you a whole range of projects made with me using the most primitive and cheapest setup possible, which is a block of mild steel that I bought. You know, you could go to a scrapyard and get it used for fractions of what I paid. I buy a block of mild steel for 50 bucks. And I set it in the ground, and I sit down on a box at my forge, and I'm holding the block of steel between my legs, working just like this, and showing that we can make a whole range of things. And that online course is available at beginblacksmithing.com. I think that's the easiest way to get into blacksmithing, and thank you very much for asking the question, because that's a great way for me to talk about my course, which again is at beginblacksmithing.com. You should go buy it if you want to find out how to get into blacksmithing and want some of those beginning projects to get you along the way. Let's take another heat. What a great question. I always love being able to advertise my, my online school. Hello, Patrick. Hello, David. David, you can use anything as an anvil that's steel and is not going to chip and fragment and break. So long as it's kind of got some mass, you can use it as an anvil. Let me find some things that I could use as an anvil in close vicinity. Okay, forklift tine. That would do great as an anvil. Here, now here's a piece of hydraulic ram. This only weighs about 6 pounds, so there's not a whole lot you could do with it. If you could find a way to mount this very solidly, however, i.e., let me spitball some ideas. Okay, I'm gonna take that out of the fire again. Let me spitball some ideas. You could take a wooden stump, drill a, whatever, 2.5-inch hole, put some adhesive silicone type stuff in there, force that in, fill it the rest in with silicone adhesive. That will work as an anvil. This thing weighs 6 pounds. You'll get work done on it. Hey, you'll be able to do everything I've done today on that. This is a piece of hydraulic shaft. There's like 20 cents of value in this thing. You know, you find a hydraulic repair shop and you say, hey, you guys have any bent rams from when they take them out? And they'll be like, hey, we got loads of them and we hate having these things hanging around. Please take them off our hands. You know, find a scrapyard, find a big lump of metal. Great. Forklift tine, piece of forklift tine, great. Piece of railroad track. Hey, sledgehammer, absolutely. You can use a sledgehammer as an anvil, same thing. Mount it upright. Piece of railroad track, you can use that as an anvil. Either grind it flat or mount it on the side so you have that little flat surface of the railroad track. Possibilities are endless. Just get creative with it. That's the main thing. What I really want to stress when talking to people about how to get into blacksmithing for the first time is to ignore all of these shiny toys that take a lot of time to accumulate, are difficult to make, or are expensive or difficult to find. Ignore all of that. All that's happening while we're doing this entire show is I am using this much of the anvil. This is all I'm using. I'm forging in here, which, you know, obviously, equally, I could do it all right there. I'm using this much of the anvil. That's all I need to work this entire project. In fact, this entire project could be done with less than that. I could do this entire project on a block of steel, stuck on its end, stuck in a piece of wood, with enough mass, and it would have to only be about 1 inch by 2.5 inches, and I could do everything we've done tonight. And yeah, it's not the same as having a real anvil, but that's all you need. What I really want to stress is that you need to, if you're thinking about getting into blacksmithing, get into it now. Don't worry about it, man. You know, start having fun, start enjoying it. The important stuff is when we're working at the anvil. The important stuff isn't thinking about gear. And I know that thinking about gear is half the fun of taking up a hobby like blacksmithing, but it's unnecessary. If you really want to get into blacksmithing, thinking about the gear is, you know, it's just pontificating about things that are somewhat useless. You'll eventually get to the point where, you know, yes, you can either devote more money towards the craft, or where you can make more tools for yourself, or, you know, potentially one takes it up as a business, and then you have the money to throw at it because, like, that's your business, and you're making investments so you can work faster and generate kind of more revenue and stuff like that. So yeah, it's focus on where it's important, and that's this. That's all that counts, guys. That little piece of steel right there, Right there, that's all that counts in everything I've done. Don't worry about any of this. Focus on that, you know? That one little tiny bit of steel is all you need as an anvil. So I'm now using cross-peen hammer, and very gently working side to side. Something you want to avoid when you're working this steel stock, if you go ahead and go wide again, is what we often do is when we're working, we start raising our hand up. Because as we hit it, it'll often kind of bow up a little bit, and then we subconsciously say, okay, it's bowed up a little bit, I need to adjust, and you raise it. You hit it again, it bows up a little more, and you're like, okay, you keep raising it, and eventually you're working 75 degrees to it, and you're putting a lot of bends in it. You want to try and avoid that. That's something I found myself doing just then. As I'm working, my left hand keeps rising. You'd be amazed how difficult it is to remind oneself that one is doing that and be able to control and stop it. How are we doing, Facebook? What's going on YouTube? Elijah, thank you so much for putting that link in there. I really appreciate it. Will I ever make makumegane? I'd love to. That'd be something I'd love to do. I don't know enough about it. I haven't taken the time to research it. At some point, I'd love to do makumegane and kind of get into doing some patterns like what I've done with my Damascus, having learned that from David Lish. Fantastic knife maker, fantastic Damascus maker in Washington State, a master smith of the American Bladesmith Society, and an all-round awesome guy. Learning to make Damascus with Dave Lish was quite the experience. What hand are we supposed to hammer with? Whichever one you want. Must be the left-hander. I'm not going to try. Jerry Vandersteed can do that. Interchange, switch between hands. He's ambidextrous. I'm just trying to hit one little spot on the leaf that hasn't forged out, and all that's happened is I've moved the steel in all the places around it that I don't want to move. Okay, it's difficult for you guys to see, but what's happened is on the leaf, there was something like this going on, where it's swollen either side but not here. So what I tried to do was angle my hammer over to draw out this material and let it continue that contour. However, I missed every single time and just kind of perpetuated these lumps and have made it even more difficult to get in there. So I'm going to see if I can fix that next heat. This is fun doing this, much more relaxed pace than What else is going on YouTube? How many people are watching on YouTube? Scroll up a little bit, it should say. 70, fantastic. Guys, if you're on YouTube, thank you so much for finding the new YouTube channel. I really appreciate that. What we've done is we've split the YouTube channel to put the live show in one place. The normal daily vlogs, I do 6 vlogs a week and 1 live show. You should check them out on my main channel. We split them up, and just to kind of have a test with the analytics, see how that performs, at least for the next month or so, compare all that stuff, see how it's going, and whether that kind of helps performance of the channel. Okay, I was able to tease that out a little bit. Now I'm going to work on the right-hand side of the leaf again. What else? Any more questions?
Someone asked where your beer was.
Where my what?
Your beer was at 11 on Saturday night.
Where's my beer at 11 o'clock on a Saturday night? Just water. I'm still working, you know. From Australia, fantastic. Thrilled to hear from you. God, I'm so British. Jolly fantastic, old bean. Let's take some water in. Without spilling it this time. Nobody make any sudden noises. Okay. So, now I kind of want to begin the pre-form of this leaf. So I come over in here to the step, and I take my cross-peen hammer, and I forge it down into the step here. Hey, you don't have an handle like this? That's all right. There are so many ways you could improvise that. Just get creative. A piece of pipe would do the same thing. A piece of angle iron, similar. You know, get creative with all of this stuff, guys. You know, it's a very important thing. Get creative. Get ingenious with how you can work around problems, find solutions. By the way, a lot of you guys, if we just go ahead and switch to the wide angle again, a lot of you guys have asked about this vice stand. And today I filmed a little video that's going to go up in the next couple of days that talks about this vice stand. That video is probably going to be live on Monday. It's going to be Monday, it's going to be live. And that, is it? Maybe Sunday, I don't know. That video will be up there at some point. And I talk about that vice stand in the video. A lot of people have asked about it. I think it's a fantastic vice stand. I also talk about some of the other vices that I have in my workshop. If you're on Facebook and you want to know where you can find that, my YouTube channel should be in the link on Facebook. I'd love for you to go and subscribe. I put out a huge amount of content that I'm striving every single day to make better and better than the day before. I'm trying my best. Those wonderful, dedicated YouTube viewers that watch every single one, thank you. Like, that's amazing. That makes me really happy. And you guys seem to be enjoying it. So if you're on Facebook and you're not yet subscribed to my YouTube channel, please do. I think you're really going to enjoy it. I think there's some they're great fun to watch. I enjoy making them. So now what we're gonna, you know what? I should have probably said something. Getting so carried away promoting my YouTube channel, I forgot. What I'm gonna go ahead and do is I'm gonna move this, and I'm gonna come over to the vise, and I'm gonna see, and just zoom in ever so slightly. Okay, so let me know if I'm in the way, Sam. I'm going to try my best to avoid it. This with gold and copper and silver, it can be done cold. You anneal it, heat it up to about a red temperature, and then quench it in water. And interestingly enough, with those particular non-ferrous metals, that has the effect of annealing it. Here, however, with the steel, we do it hot. I wrap it all the way around, nice and tightly, and really make sure that I form that leaf to the contours of this bar. Select a bar that's appropriate to the finger that you're wanting to fit. Wonderful. Slide it on up. And there we go. That's what we got so far. So what you'll see, up, then down, left, right, to me, to you, to left, right, there, okay. What you see is we then have here, right here, where we have that little whatchamawatsit doo-dah-doo, the thing-ma-doo, the shoulder. It's late, I've been working all day. It's been a long day. We have this shoulder. What we're going to do next heat is we're going to make a bend right at that shoulder. It's going to be a nice tight bend, and then it's going to be tricky for me to show you this. It'll be if we go wide again, that'd be lovely. It's going to be a very fast process that you might not catch. I want to see if we really can make sure that you do catch it. Let me know if I'm in frame the whole time, Sam. And what we're going to do is we're going to make a bend just there. Then we're going to begin rolling it up, and that's going to form a rung scroll. This is one of the most incredible things about the two-sided table that, again, Brian Brazil showed me, and I'm very pleased to share it here, because it's a wonderful finial, especially for a ring like this. Joel asks whether I put anything on the rings or bands to stop them from rusting. You just got to wear them. This, I go into the salt water and go swimming pretty regularly, and occasionally it'll develop some rust. But I bathe with it on, and I'm working here in the shop, and I guess the oils from my skin coat it, and it means that it doesn't really rust too much. Occasionally it'll leave a little orange ring, but you know, some people have particularly acidic skin, acidic oils on the skin, and there is some kind of jewelry lacquers that you can use for that to prevent it from rusting there. Okay, so I'm just going to run through and do this now with somewhat of a thought about time so that I can get it done in the heat. Open her up. Okay, 90-degree bend. Boom. Begin rolling it over. Oh, nope, a little too cold. Let's take another heat. Okie dokie. Oh, wrong hands. And just keep rolling it over. I'm going to take another heat. A 16mm bar works wonderfully for a great deal of ring sizes. You know, this is a more effeminate ring, and it works fantastically for, you know, being right about an average kind of size for a woman's finger. Okay, back in we go. Yeah, I like about where that's ending. So now I'm going to ring it off. Now that it's cold, it will shear and twist off just like this. That's a very hot piece of steel. It's funny that you put a hot piece of steel on a piece of steel and it becomes hot. On the little penny scroll, if you could just, I'll tell you what, I'll just you could just go right about there. It'd be lovely. All good? On that little penny scroll, then hammer it down flat with the drift as a mandrel, and probably then just take, do I have my little pliers? I don't, that's okay. I'll take a pair of scroll tongs, open it up a little bit, wonderful. And then I'm going to take a wooden mallet, see what I can do. You know what, I seem to recall the best method I had for doing this was simply gripping it in the vise. So let's do that again. Move that up, it's pretty cold. Touching it with my hands at this point shouldn't hurt him. Shouldn't hurt myself. Okay. Now I just need a little bit of a wire brush. It really would be better on the wire wheel. I'll heat it up a little bit. I tell you what, I'm going to heat it up just a touch and then the scale or wire brush a little bit. Ideally, I'd have that wire wheel, but my wire wheel's at the other end of the workshop. Let's see what I can do regarding heating it up and then brushing off the scale. But of course I need to make sure that I don't heat it up so much that I then bend it when I'm brushing off the scale. Okay, oh. Yep, I'm now a drop forger. I drop forge rings. Come on. So much for heating it up, eh? Sounding like a Canuck. Pretty difficult to get in there with the wire brush without bending it. I mean, a little wire wheel and a bench grinder is perfect for this. However, this is a super aggressive brush. One little itsy bitsy thing to fix where it just oxidized away slightly. Sorry? Is my elbow right in the way? Well, it's a very attractive elbow. I'm sure they appreciate it. So what I'm doing is there was a little bit that just oxidized away with all my my yakking. Just oxidized a little bit, so I'm just filing away the sharpness that happened as a result. Beautiful. Are we cold? It's cold. Now, I'm probably about the worst example of a hand model in the world. But we'll see what I can do regarding showing off that little forge ring. If we go ahead and zoom in on that.
I'm zooming in. Hang on a second.
Zoom in on that, my boy.
Oh, there it is.
Try my Yorkshire accent. Sam's from Yorkshire. There we go.
You are the worst hand bottle ever.
Well, thanks, Sam. It's very kind of you. There we go. A little forged mild steel ring. Exact same process applies if you are going to be making this out of gold or silver or copper, and supposedly titanium, or so I thought at the beginning of this. I apologize. We didn't manage to have too many successes with the titanium. Hope you enjoyed seeing a little bit of an experiment of forging it. That was a whole lot of fun. I apologize. It's a little bit of a simple project. No, I don't apologize. Actually, it's 11:20 at night. I'm putting on this show. I have nothing to apologize for, so I'm not going to. What I will say, however, Sam, thank you so much for helping out. Everybody on YouTube, thank you so much for going to the effort of coming to the new YouTube channel. I'm very pleased to have you here, and I'm looking forward to seeing how this little experiment works. I'll keep in touch with you about that. If you're on Facebook, thank you so much for watching there also. Go to my YouTube channel that's linked up and subscribe. I think you're really going to enjoy the content I put out because I think it's freaking awesome. And no, I don't mind if I say so myself. I think it is awesome content. I hope you guys have a lovely, lovely, lovely day. And next week, however, almost. Next week, the show's going to be on a different day. That's all going to be announced on the social media. Probably going to be on Thursday night. I'm then going to Serbia on Friday to go shoot pistols, which is going to be fun. So the show's probably going to be on Thursday night to make up for that. I'll let you guys all know about that. That'll be on social media. You'll be able to work it out. But Thursday night, similar kind of time, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 2 p.m. Pacific, 10 p.m. if you're here in the UK. We're going to do the live show for next week, probably on Thursday. We'll let you know about that. Sam, thank you so much for your help. Please wave to the camera. Hey, thank you, Sam. Everybody, guys, Really appreciate you guys watching and sharing and subscribing to the YouTube channel. Have a lovely, lovely day. This has been the Alec Steele Show, episode number 8. Bye-bye.